human's quest for freedom is constant, whether it's freedom from pain and suffering, life and death, fear or hunger. This constant quest for freedom led to the development of all spiritual conquests and paths. In India, there is a small yet powerful group of individuals seeking freedom called the Jains. Along with Buddhism and Hinduism, Jainism is one of three ancient Indian traditions still in existence, acting as an integral part of South Asian religious belief and practice. The common factor of Jainism, Hinduism, and Buddhism is they share the belief in reincarnation. Each believe it is the individual's responsibility to achieve liberation from reincarnation. Followers of Jainism can sometimes be viewed as having extreme practices to achieve this liberation, but ultimately they believe they are the writers of their own destiny. The purpose of this video is to explore Jainism, its belief system, and its followers' path to achieving this freedom. Jainism is one of the oldest living religions, predating recorded history. It is a religion of India, specifically Gujarat, Rajasthan, Mumbai, and Karnataka. Scholars believe Jainism originated in the 7th to 5th century BCE in the Ganges Basin of eastern India. This was an area of intense religious speculation at the time. Belief systems that opposed the ritualistic Brahmanic schools, who derived their claim to purity to their ability to perform the traditional rituals and sacrifices, began to appear in this region. These new religious perspectives promoted asceticism, the abandonment of ritual, domestic, and social action, and the attainment of spiritual illumination in an attempt to win, through one's efforts, freedom from repeated rebirth, samsara. Freedom from samsara, moksha, is a main point in the Jain doctrine. The Jains believe that karma is what keeps one bonded in samsara. The Jains believe that one becomes trapped in a cycle of rebirth due to the accumulation of karma upon them. This karma forms the physical body or bodies which become attached to the soul, and this determines various characteristics of each rebirth. Ridding oneself of karma is a way to obtain moksha, but ridding oneself of all karma is not an easy task. In most religions, followers pray to a higher power for guidance to take on a difficult task, not the Jains. Jains attempt to rid themselves from karma by living a lifestyle taught by their Tirthankaras, or ford makers, who achieved moksha and paved the path for Jainism. The Tirthankaras are jinas, people who have achieved liberation from rebirth. The term Jain is derived from the word jina, hence Jainism. There are 24 Tirthankaras in this cosmic cycle, according to the Jains. The 24th Tirthankara, Mahavira's teachings, are commonly followed today. Mahavira left his luxurious lifestyle at the age of 30 to follow a path of purification and realization. He renounced all his material possessions and family life, devoting himself to the practice of meditation. During this time, he suffered great abuse from irate villagers. They cut his flesh, tore his hair, and covered him with dirt. He sat undisturbed, bearing all hardships, proceeding the path to liberation. Mahavira was able to burn away karma from past acts and retain the quality of his soul. He attained infinite knowledge. Until his death, he taught wisdom and self-realization, the presence of soul in all beings, that karma binds the soul in ignorance and suffering, and the importance of ahimsa, or non-violence, to overcome that karma. According to Jain tradition, Mahavira attained moksha, liberation from the body, at age 72. The Tirthankaras paved the way to obtaining moksha with three basic teachings, the three jewels. The three jewels are Samyak Darshana, right faith, Samyak Jnana, right knowledge, and Samyak Charita, meaning right conduct. The three jewels are a code of ethics in the Jain faith. The first jewel, right faith, means not just believing what you're told, but seeing things properly and avoiding preconceptions and superstitions that get in the way of seeing clearly. It also means having faith and following the 7 truths of Jainism. These 7 truths are Jiva, meaning all living beings have a soul; Ajiva, meaning non-living things have no soul; Asara, meaning doing actions can bring karma to the soul; Bandha, meaning karma can stick to the soul; Samvara, meaning the influx of karma can be stopped; Marana, meaning one can separate karma from the soul; and Moksha, meaning separating karma frees one's soul. The second jewel, right knowledge, is closely intertwined with the first jewel, right faith. While right faith includes believing the 7 truths, right knowledge means truly understanding them. Jains do this by following the Tintakuras and listening to Jain monks and nuns. The third jewel, right conduct, means living a life that is good and does not harm. This includes the Jains' 5 Mahavratas, or great vows of ascetics. These 5 great vows include ahimsa, nonviolence; satya, truth; asteya, non-stealing; brahmacharya, celibacy; and apagara, non-attachment and non-possession. Amongst these great vows, ahimsa is the cardinal principle of all Jainism. It is repeatedly said in Jain literature: do not injure, abuse, oppress, enslave, insult, torment, torture, or kill any creature or living being. Jains believe all living beings, regardless of their size, shape, and different spiritual developments, are equal. They believe every living being has the right to exist with every other living being in harmony and peace. Some can see it as being impractical to never cause harm to living beings when some living organisms are microscopic. Jainism says that minimum killing is the lowest form of life and should be ideal for survival. The Jains categorize living beings according to their senses. Living beings with one sense, touch, include those like plants, water, and air, and earth. Living beings with 2 senses, touch and taste, include those like worms and leeches. Living beings with 3 senses, touch, taste, and smell, include ants and lice. Living beings with 4 senses, touch, taste, smell, and sight, include those like flies and bees. Living beings with 5 senses, touch, taste, smell, sight, and hearing, include those like humans, animals, and birds. Because it is more painful if a life with more senses is killed, Jains allow their people to only use vegetables as food for survival. This is limited to plants that grow above the ground because uprooting plants such as potatoes and carrots kills the entire plant. Jainism explains that violence is not defined by actual harm. Instead, it is the intent to harm with the absence of compassion, awareness, and ignorance. They believe that nonviolence is to be observed in action, speech, and thought. Without violent thought, there can be no violent actions. Ultimately, ahimsa is the root of the Jain faith. The other 4 Mahavratas are still equally as important to ahimsa to the Jains. Satya, truth, intertwines with ahimsa, for when one does not speak the truth, it can cause harm to others. The Jains believe that anger, greed, fear, and jokes are breeding grounds for untruth. Only the ones who have conquered greed, fear, anger, jealousy, and ego can speak the truth. The Jains also believe that truth should remain wholesome and pleasant. One should remain silent if the truth causes any pain, hurt, anger, or death of any living beings. Satya, non-stealing, also intertwines with ahimsa because stealing can cause harm. Stealing is taking another person's property without consent or by unjust or immoral methods. Jains believe that no matter what the worth, one should not touch another thing that does not belong to him. This vow may seem obvious, but the ultimate message is that one should be totally honest in action, thought, and speech. Brahmacharya, or celibacy, is important to Jains. They believe that sensual pleasure sets aside all virtues and reason at the time of indulgence. This is not an easy task because one may refrain from physical activity but still think of the pleasures of being sensual, which is also prohibited by Jainism. Monks and nuns are required to follow this vow completely. They should not enjoy sensual pleasures or pleasure all 5 senses, or approve it. For non-monks and nuns, just regular householders, there are rules laid down for this vow. A householder should not have any physical relationship with anyone other than their own spouse, and that one should be of a limited nature. Aparigraha, or non-attachment, is important to the Jains because they feel that in order to achieve spiritual liberation, one must withdraw from all attachment to objects pleasing the five senses. They believe that the more worldly wealth a person possesses, the more likely he is to commit sin and acquire and maintain the possession. These 5 vows are followed as strictly as possible for Jain monks and nuns. Partial observation is laid down for householders along with the 7 truths of Jainism. The Jain truths and vows can seem to some an impossible task to accomplish. Jain monks and nuns follow these truths and vows to utmost respect. The most effective way to rid oneself of karma and obtain moksha is to become a Jain monk or nun. Jain monks and nuns are also called munis, the silent ones. Amongst this group are teachers and heads of congregation. These people represent the ideal achievement that the Tirthankaras reached. The initiation into the Jain monastic life is called Diksha. During Diksha, Jain men and women renounce their possessions and leave behind their worldly existence to live a simple life of self-reflection, service, and teaching. There are 2 main branches of Jain monasticism, the Digambara, or sky-clad, and the Shivtambara, white-clad. The Digambara renounce everything, even clothing, because they believe Mahavira gave up all possessions, even his clothing. They also believe that women are not capable of attaining liberation in this life. They must first be born in a man's body. The Shivtambara wear 2 pieces of white cloth. They make up a majority of the Jain monks and nuns. They own only their clothing, a bowl to receive food, and a small broom to clear the paths and open areas of insects. Some wear mouth guards to protect organisms from being breathed in or on. The Shivtambara believe that men and women are both capable of attaining moksha. These monks and nuns renounce their home. They do not cook. They only receive food from the community, which is considered a holy act. They travel on foot to not harm any organisms by riding in a vehicle, and they only travel in seasons where it's not raining, because the rain brings out organisms that they could potentially harm. For householders, practicing Jainism is not as extreme. These Jains follow the guidance of the Tirthankaras and practice ahimsa to the best of their ability. They are strict vegetarians and only eat before sunset. Before modern technology and electricity, Jains would have to eat before sunset to make sure they weren't accidentally harming any small insects. Modern-day Jains believe there are many reasons to follow Jainism that help them in their daily life. They believe that 3 jewels are necessary to live by. They believe it gives them purpose in life, and Jainism promotes conflict resolution. They believe it encourages the respect of all living beings. To some, Jainism is not an easy path to follow, especially in this modern world with everything worldly around us. The Jains keep their faith by attending temples, learning from the monks and nuns, and following the teachings of the Tirthankaras. Almost every Jain temple is engraved with, "Nonviolence is the highest religion." Jains go to temple and practice prayer and meditation to get a recharge of their faith and become capable to practice ahimsa in their modern world. Jainism is a small faith that practices some serious ideas of self-reflection, meditation, renunciation, and nonviolence. The lengths that the Jains go to attain samsara can be viewed as extreme. Ultimately, they are seeking freedom like anyone else practicing faith in the world. The Jain people are practicing their faith to the best of their abilities. Their unique practice of following Tirthankaras instead of a higher power shows that they believe in an ultimate true path to enlightenment. Ultimately, each person is the writer of their own destiny.